If you've been sleeping under a rock, you may not know that the United States of America has invaded Venezuela.
What?
And illegally captured the head of another state. And it's awful, and it's terrible, and President Trump is a war criminal. And we're going to get to all of that today.
What?
Is this unprecedented? Is this something that has never happened before in the history of America? Or have we invaded or intervened in Venezuela twice before, all under the Monroe Doctrine? And is Trump in line? Or did he commit war crimes? We're going to talk about that today. Spoiler alert, no. But we're going to go over why that's the case through a historical lens, receipts brought and cited here. Join us as we stray further every day. Howdy, Jonathan Fiala for Further Every Day, Signature of Philosophy. To my right, I got Miss Nikki. How's it going?
It is going very well.
Glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Good New Year so far?
Yes, it is a good New Year's, and I think there's a lot of people in Venezuela think it's a very good New
It is
Year.
a good New Year for them.
It is.
My left, I've got Charlie.
I be here.
How's it going?
It's going very well. Looking forward to 2026.
Amen.
Hey, folks, make sure that you 26 on the checks.
Start now. Steve,
Yes, sir.
how's it going?
Man, it is going fantastic. And I'm sure it's going fantastic in Venezuela also.
I think they're happy.
And I bet they are being politically incorrect also. And
Especially for the liberal friends here in America.
Yes,
More
completely
like white
for them.
saviors. Yeah.
And telling them, no, Maduro.
How long did you sit on that?
He was up all night on
I
that
was
one.
up all night. I tossed and turned
Mr.
like a hot
Producer
dog.
is incredulous.
Man,
How are you
I tell
doing,
you.
Brian?
I think I'm fine.
It's always coming after Steve is a tough show. So,
Man, that didn't even rhyme, Ryan.
Got to work on it, dude.
Man.
his name is Ryan, and when he comes after you, he be crying. We're gonna go ahead
Wow.
and get into it. So if you've missed it, Trump posted this wonderful montage, and we went ahead and put up a couple more montages because this is our Venezuelan montage of happiness. Go ahead and pull up cut number 1, Mr. Producer. Maduro issued a challenge.
Venga por mí.
Come for me.
Aquí lo esperan Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar.
Don't take too long to arrive,
I
coward.
just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen,
I love that our president is
start your engine.
how it started versus how it's going. Got a frog marched out. I love the Happy New Year.
I
says Happy New
absolutely.
Year.
I want to sit next to Maduro and just ask him, how do you like America right now?
I love this whole thing. I love that our president is posting troll posts.
Yes.
I love it.
Inject this right into my veins. Like 2028, JD Vance, I hope the ride is like this. I hope it keeps going. I hope this keeps going because this is great.
Yeah.
Why do I think it's great? Would I be happy if Barack Obama did this? He did in a way, but it was very different, and the results are very different.
Radically different.
And so before,
Yes.
it's not a whataboutism. It's not a this side likes this versus that side. It's what is the result? What is the result?
And if you think about it, this is my personal opinion. Hillary Clinton had no chance of being elected president after that.
Yeah,
That finished it for her.
This is a clear difference in policy structure because in previous years, we have started wars in Afghanistan. So, someone sent me a meme. We're starting a sequel, and it's going to be a sequel. They did the Muppets meme. We're starting a sequel, and, it's coming this year. The sequel's never as good as the last one, and referencing Afghanistan and Iraq. I hope it doesn't become a sequel. There's always the risk of that.
Yep.
And I noted we're not out of the woods yet, but I think It's looking clean so far.
But to me, there's a major difference between George W. Bush and President Trump. George W. Bush was, I don't want to use the term rhino, but he was establishment Republican.
Yeah.
President Trump is nowhere near that.
The Bushes are intertwined with the New World Order and the objectives, whereas Trump is not specifically breaking
He's
that.
anti that.
And this is the most important thing that Trump could have done. Hegseth is really, I think, the reason for this. And a lot of the Indo-Pacific fleet guys, spoilers, that's what this is all about. We'll talk about that more in just a little bit. So stay around. We're going to talk about why this is related to China and Taiwan. That's what all of this is about. Don't lose sight of that. But before we do, we want to enjoy a little bit of Schadenfreude, because I want to put up a cut in just a moment. Mr. Bruce is going to throw this up there of a white knight liberal savior crying. And it's a little chaotic. If you're on audio, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go watch this on our channel on Rumble or YouTube. If you're on the PSB audience, you guys can see this live. I want to compare the white knights here in America versus the Venezuelans who are living there right now. Mm-hmm. This is a set of one white liberal in America versus what we see overwhelmingly on Venezuelan social media. Go ahead and play that clip, Mr. Producer, please.
We are bombing Venezuela right now. It is 2:35 a.m. and Pete Kegsbro, cosplay G.I. Joe, is literally bombing Venezuela. You guys didn't stop them when they were bombing boats in the ocean. You didn't stop them when they put a tanker off the coast of Venezuela like a bunch of pirates.
I can't hear you, lady.
When they bombed Nigeria less than 2 weeks ago.
I can't hear you over the winning.
I love it.
I can't hear you over the winning. Thank you, Mr. Producer. I can't hear you over the winning. Look at what the liberals, what side is the Democrat Party on in North America? Like,
they are on the thug, satanic,
drug worshiping, drug peddling, masochistic, vile dictators. That they're on that side. And again, once again, the side who is abolitionist for abortion, abolitionist for slavery, pro-freedom, pro-America first, has defeated the pro-slavery, pro-mind virus, LGBT, self-mutilation, self-destruction, just this secondary God, this not real God of wokeness. They've lost again, and they're freaking out.
And this lets you know where they will go just so much so that they can hate Trump.
That's what it's all about. Is
you know what I'm saying?
We just liberated a country, okay? We just liberated a country.
That should have been done years ago.
There was a full winning, okay, of the election in previous, and what we're not seeing is any transfer of power.
And it was clear that Maduro didn't win.
Yeah.
With a journalist who accumulated,
who actually got out,
got the tallies.
Who got the tallies? She got out, and she got the Nobel Peace Prize. Do you think she gave that Nobel Peace Prize to Trump for no reason?
And for our white liberal friends that don't think Trump is going to win a Nobel Peace Prize, I'm not saying that he will.
He should.
He should. But I definitely would not count him out of that. That is a bold statement.
She absolutely was winning. She was doing a good job laying it all out. Look, I'd like to see her be the president, but
she wasn't elected.
Yeah.
To be clear.
To be fair. I would like to see it. I would like to see someone who is put in. Hold a new election, one without the Venezuelan voting machines. Not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, but that's a whole nother side of this. If you want to know what another sliver of this is BRICS. BRICS' control lever on the Western Hemisphere is all the technology that Venezuela is involved in. Look it up. Dominion, a lot of these other systems, they are out of Venezuela. You look at a lot of the hanky-panky coming out of 2020. there were signs, there were question marks. I'm not saying for sure, but there were a lot of question marks as to Venezuela's fingerprints all over this. Was this justified? Let's answer that question going through the history of the United States. We've already talked about the Monroe Doctrine on this channel before. In fact, go check it out.
Good doctrine.
Episode 201.
Yep.
And we're going to lay out a little bit again, just do a quick primer for those who are just joining us. You haven't been around for the past few weeks and months. But episode 201, you can go look it up. We do a deep dive on the original address of James Monroe. It's a 7th annual address to the American people, where he lays out what would be codified as the Monroe Doctrine in United States foreign policy. Now, we're going to cover that, but then we're going to see how that doctrine has evolved over the years. Is Trump still America first, involving himself with Venezuela? Hold that thought. Put it in the back of the brain. Just tuck it in the way, and we're going to get back to it. Back burner. For right now, Mr. Producer, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pull up the next cut, because I want to read some of his original address, which has become President James Monroe's address that has become codified as the Monroe Doctrine. And so follow along, folks, and we will dive in. Go ahead. So, the citizens of the United States cherish sentiments the most friendly in favor of the liberty and happiness of their fellow men on that side of the Atlantic. Speaking about the Europeans, in the wars of the European powers and matters relating to themselves, we have never taken any part. Remember, this is in 1823, December 2nd. Nor is it our policy to do so. It is only when our rights are invaded or seriously menaced that we resent injuries or make preparation for our defense. With the movement of with the movements in this hemisphere, we are of necessity more immediately connected, and by causes which must be obvious to all enlightened and impartial observers. The political system of the Allied powers is essentially different in this respect from that of America. What is he saying? First off, dumb farmer speaking there, according to your white liberal college history teacher. Not a dumb farmer, not just a dumb farmer. Very, very intelligent, thoughtful, articulate man. But he's saying, look, the Europeans, and we can expand this to BRICS, I think, without any problem, okay? The Europeans are a chaotic group of people, always at war. You got to remember, there were a lot of wars going on at the time, and actually we have more wars going on today than ever before, smaller proxy wars between different sides. The Monroe Doctrine is essentially, we do not want a part of your wars in a part A. Now, keep going, Mr. Producer, we'll get to part B. So the difference proceeds from that which exists in their respective governments and to the defense of our own, which has been achieved by the loss of so much blood and treasure and matured by the wisdom of their most enlightened citizens, and under which we have enjoyed unexampled felicity. This whole nation is devoted. We owe it, therefore, to the candor and to the amicable relations existing between the United States and those powers to declare that we should consider any attempt on their part to extend their system to this portion of the hemisphere as dangerous to our peace and safety. With the existing colonies or dependencies of any European power, we have not interfered and shall not interfere. What's he saying there, Charlie?
And can I step back to the previous paragraph for just a moment? When you look at the middle part of that paragraph there, we have never taken any part, nor does it comport with our policy to do so. It is only when our rights are invaded or seriously menaced. Why are we looking at Venezuela?
Because
normally it wouldn't matter to us. But because they're part of the Americas, they're in South America, and they are getting their influence from the Iranians, from the Chinese,
from the Russians.
The Russians. That's a menace.
It's a failed rogue state.
Yes.
That is being propped up within mid-range ballistic missile range. Okay, so mid-size intercontinental ballistic missiles. They are on our back door.
Not what you want.
We're going to get there, but this is really what it's about, folks. There's a reason. So, but let's keep going. The difference proceeds what he's saying is the difference proceeds in the respect of the different governments and the defense of our own. He's saying, look, you guys have set up colonies here. Mm-hmm. Any more colonies, any more attempts will be stymied. They will be stopped. You are not allowed to colonize this hemisphere, especially against the values and rights of the people present. What's Venezuela? A failed rogue state being propped up by the Chinese Communist Party and by the Russians and by the Iranians. As far as the Monroe Doctrine's concerned, I consider this Europe.
This is pretty. It's easy.
It's same expansion, same thing. So just to continue to the next paragraph, Mr. Pierce, you're going to throw that up. But with the governments who have declared their independence and maintain it in South America, and whose independence we have on great consideration and on just principles acknowledged, we could not view any interposition for the purpose of oppressing them or controlling in any other manner their destiny by any European power in any other light than as the manifestation of an unfriendly disposition towards the United States. You guys break in to another country, you try to subjugate another country,
that's pain.
It's on us.
Yep.
In the war between those new governments and Spain, we declared our neutrality at the time of their recognition, and to this we have adhered and shall continue to adhere, provided no change shall occur in which the judgments of the competent authorities of this government shall make a responding change on the part of the United States indispensable to their security. What he's saying is, if you guys start to build back doors into the Western Hemisphere,
there's going to be problems.
We're gonna come to the aid of these countries that we love liberty. We want to protect liberty. We don't generally go around and bail people out. But if you're going to do it on our back door, we're going to consider that an attack. This is early version of walk softly, carry big stick, and Teddy Roosevelt added to
yes.
via the Roosevelt corollary, and we'll get to that. Our policy in regard to Europe, which has adopted at an early stage of the wars which have so long agitated that quarter of the globe, nevertheless remains the same, which is not to interfere in the internal concerns of any of its powers, to consider the government de facto as the legitimate government for us, to cultivate friendly relations with it, and to preserve those relations by a frank, firm, and manly policy, meeting in all instances the just claims of every power, submitting to injuries from none. But in regards to those continents, circumstances are eminently and conspicuously different.
Now, what's interesting about all that is when you look at what the previous 4 years have been prior to Trump, did Biden acknowledge Maduro as legitimate? The answer is no.
Yep.
So you've got presidents on both sides of the aisle that have said Maduro is not legitimate. When you make the statement that it's a rogue state, it certainly looks like everybody would be in agreement with that. That's not a stretch.
Yeah, but we're in a, which is very strange to me, but you have people who, I just hate Trump, so everything Trump does, I'm going to find fault with it.
We have to fight it.
We have to fight
term.
instead of looking at the circumstances which are really
Bad.
Before us.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, and this is what I said to Charlie earlier. They're going to rise up and hate Trump for doing this. But let's say that we do have an open back door and America is attacked. Then they're going to hate Trump for not doing something.
Correct. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot to be said. This is actually tying in somewhat nicely with the apologetic segment that we're going to do a little bit later. Doing this for the sake of hating Trump is a bad way to go because it's an issue of what's right versus what's wrong.
Correct.
There's nothing that you can say in terms of Trump and what his goal is here. A lot of people said it's for his oil, maybe indirectly, but at the core, and he has been very, very consistent with this, the flow of drugs into this country is going to stop.
It's a lot more than the drugs, though. In fact,
it is.
I would argue it has so much less to do with the drugs than what we're going to talk about at the end.
But the rogue state is getting funded by...
It's getting funded by drugs and by these other countries, though. Primarily by these other countries. They couldn't even keep it up without China and Russia because there's a lot of that's been funded.
So if you look at the totality of all this, we're funding our own demise.
Well,
Yes.
and we're allowing this backdoor state. It is so
Yes.
much bigger than the drug issue. It is so much bigger than the drug issue. And so that same day, just carrying on, that same day, so got to remember that this was Jefferson or Monroe's response, right? Or Monroe's seventh annual address to Congress, and December 2nd of 1823. The same day, Jefferson wrote a letter and sent it to Monroe's office. And I want to read just an excerpt out of here. This is kind of Jefferson's agreement with Monroe on the principles. Go ahead and throw that up, Mr. Producer. America, North and South, has a set of interests distinct from those of Europe. You could say Russia and China and Iran as well, and peculiarly her own. She should therefore have a system of her own, separate and apart from that of Europe and China, Russia, and Iran, while the last is laboring to become the domicile of despotism. Our endeavor should surely be to make our hemisphere that of freedom. If we have a strong, unified back door and front door, it's going to be a lot harder to be invaded. And now with the issue of nuclear arms potentially being smuggled into Venezuela for a multiple simultaneous attack, that's what we're talking about, folks. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about closing a gaping. We're wearing those old nightgown dresses that have the button down butt so you can go to the bathroom without taking. Our flap has been open. Okay, it's time to button that sucker up. And
you know what this is called? It's called national security.
National security. and to Charlie's point, we should have, during the Biden administration, we should have in 2024, we should have knocked Nicolas Maduro out at the time. We should have said, okay, you're now a rogue state and you're in line with other nuclear powers who wish us harm. We're done.
We'll take care of you.
We'll take care of it. We'll move on. This has gone on for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. So people are complaining because the result took a presidential election in America for us to come back.
Yep.
It took us that long. We should have been on it then. It's like Ukraine. We should have hailfire missiled the first tank tread that crossed the Russo-Ukrainian border, or we should have stayed out of it. One or the other. Pick a lane. Not start a proxy war and send hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian young men to die in the Russian meat grinder. Pick a lane, but don't go and sacrifice a bunch of Ukrainian and Russian men for no reason. Pick a lane. Trump picked a lane, and do you realize how many aircraft were involved in this? 150. We had a cap of a flight cap coming in of F-35 stealth fighters, F-22 Raptor stealth fighters. We had an AWACS cap, and then we had F-18s supporting on the flanks. We sent in multiple Chinook 47s. Do you know how big a Chinook 47 is?
That's big.
You drive multiple vehicles into that sucker.
That's big.
That's what grabbed Maduro. We had Vipers and Apaches supporting the Chinooks. We immediately bombed every single air defense right out the gate with B-1 Lancers. This is insane. Whatever we just did, inject that into this country's veins for the next 100 years. Because it's what we did in Iran, too. This many casualties.
No.
We had a bunch of fighters and a bunch of helicopters shot up. No one died. None of our people died. A lot of their people probably died. We don't know what the casualty report is yet.
Let's counter that with, or contrast that with
20
Libya.
years. Libya?
That was a joke.
4 or 5 years of drawn out conflict? Someone fact check me. How long was Libya? 20 years in Afghanistan. How many years in Iraq and Kuwait? Whatever Trump is doing with Hegseth and the War Department, let's repeat that. No American deaths. 3-hour war. That doesn't sound like he's there for oil. I'm sorry.
No.
It doesn't sound like he's there for full spectrum dominance.
So for the people that may have this inclination here about, well, Trump just wants the oil, spare me, because y'all do not understand how the oil field works. You do not understand how all of that comes together. I've done some reading on this and research on this. It is said by the people familiar with it down there, this is by Venezuelan oil people, that it would take roughly 58 billion, that's with a B, dollars, to bring the infrastructure up to snuff, to get it to a point where it's usable in Venezuela. Do you understand how long it would take you to get oil production back to where it once was? Trump's going to be long dead.
Yeah. And so I'm all for it. So someone in the live PSB chat, by the way, if you're one of our regular listeners, thank you for hundreds of thousands of downloads on the audio, wherever you can find a podcast. Thank you, iTunes, Google, etc. You can join in the live chat on the PSB network's live chats. PSB, you can find them on Rumble, DLive, or Vaughn.live. You can find us there at 1 to 3 Central, God's time zone. Cultivator63 says, no money in short wars. I agree, but what's very important is our national security, and we'll get to it. But this is 100% within the line of the Monroe Doctrine. Again, like we just alluded to, Thomas Jefferson in favor of having a strong back door. Now, a lot of people will invoke Washington, and they'll say Washingtonian isolationism is what we should employ. Let's actually read what Washington said. Let's actually read what the man said at his farewell address on September 19th, 1796. Go ahead and pull up the quote, Mr. Producer. The great rule of conduct for us in regard to foreign nations is in extending our commercial relations, notice commercial relations, to have them with them as little political connection as possible. So far as we have already formed engagements, let them be fulfilled with perfect good faith. Here, let us stop. Europe has a set of primary interests. Does it sound like Monroe talking? Just saying. Europe has a set of primary interests, which to us have none or very little remote relation. Hence, she must be engaged in frequent controversies, the causes of which are essentially foreign to our concerns. Hence, therefore, it must be unwise in us to implicate ourselves by artificial ties, these are alliances, in the ordinary vicissitudes of her politics or in the ordinary combinations and collisions of her friendships or enmities. What he's talking about is do not set up a situation where a guy in the Balkans gets shot by an indigent and all of a sudden we have World War I. That's what Washington is talking about. If you really look at, the assassination of Ferdinand, how did that start the largest world conflict to date? Because of all the interconnected relationships and diplomatic ties that constrain Europe. That's what Washington is talking about. We're not talking about building that with Venezuela. We're saying we're going to come in, we're going to kick out this insurgent, this rogue state dictator. And then as soon as you guys are ready to play ball and actually have a real election, a true one that's fair, we're out. We're going to set up potentially some commercial relations, which, by the way, Washington literally said, let's set up commercial relations. Let's go ahead and have that. But we don't really want to be tied in all of these treaties. We don't want to have alliance treaties. And that is exactly what Trump is doing right now. Someone in the chat, a couple people said they're calling it the Don Roe.
The Don Roe Doctrine.
The Don Roe Doctrine. I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
I've heard them call it that on the news.
But I would say this, though, too. Okay, fun with the little name thing. But there's no way that Trump really is allowed to do this without that doctrine.
Yeah.
That doctrine is key.
This is American interests being carried out in the way that America always has. Let's go ahead and make the case a little bit further. But before we do, I actually want to pull up one more objection that people will bring. People will bring up the words of President John Quincy Adams in his July 4th, 1821 speech. Go ahead and throw that up, Mr. Producer. And they'll use this as a anti-Monroe doctrine. America, she has abstained from interference in the concerns of others, even when the conflict has been for principles to which she clings, as to the last vital drop that visits the heart. She, America, has seen that probably for centuries to come, all the contests of that Asaladama, the European world, will be contests of inveterate power and emerging right. whenever the standard of freedom and independence, or wherever the standard of freedom and independence has been or shall be unfurled, there will her heart, her benedictions, and her prayers be. But she goes not abroad in search of monsters to destroy. Go ahead and continue on the quote, Mr. Producer. America, she is a well-wisher to the freedom and independence of all. She is the champion and vindicator only of her own. She will recommend the general cause by the countenance of her voice and the benignant sympathy of her example. She well knows that by once enlisting under the banners or under banners other than her own, were they even the banners of foreign independence, she would involve herself beyond the power of extrication in all the wars of interest and intrigue, of individual avarice, envy, ambition, which assume the colors and usurp the standard of freedom. The fundamental maxims of her policy would insensibly change from liberty to force. What he's saying is not that America cannot intervene in world politics. He's saying if there's a revolution somewhere, like in France, we can't dedicate our whole military to that war. Because if you look at the French Revolution, not only did they free from the monarchy, but they killed a lot of innocent people. We need to stay out of independent revolutions whenever possible.
Yep.
What makes that different, and we more or less have stayed out of Cuba, Venezuela for years. The reason we're stepping in right now is because they are aligning themselves with BRICS.
With the wrong
That's the real
people.
reason. Do not misunderstand it. There is connection with the drugs. Got it. That's not the reason. That's not the thing that moved the lever. It's the fact that we have a rogue nation state on our back door that's friendly with nuclear powers. And if Taiwan lights up like a Christmas tree, do you really think that BRICS is cozying up with Venezuela for no reason? If they do a two-pronged attack, one on Taiwan, and then we have a salvo launch of nuclear ballistic missiles from Venezuela, how do you think that's going to hamper our ability to respond to Taiwan?
Can't.
We have to close this. Our butt flap has been open. It's time to button that sucker up.
You know, and I know that we're going to hear a lot from liberals, and a lot of it is foolishness, especially from the political realm. They're get in front of a television camera and they say things that they really don't believe because they know that we really need to take care of this. But they can't agree about it in public because then it'll look like they're supporting Trump, and they don't want to see him that way. But the truth is this. We are living in a wonderful country, but we live in a dangerous world. And Americans take for granted the wealth that we have, the freedom that we have, the land that we have. We have not been attacked on our country, in our country. I mean, I know that in 9/11, we had planes attack, but we haven't had soldiers attack us
in our land.
But if we do not be, actively taking care of our back doors, we will. Your sons and your daughters will be fighting in America to hold their land.
It is not even in the slightest bit close. You're absolutely correct. If we are one altercation away from serious issues, and we may not even be alive. We may not be breathing oxygen anymore if it's a nuclear strike. So yeah, it's 100% right that we do this, and it is precedented. I do want to continue. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. I was listening to a report that I get from a guy, I've told you about it, on church security stuff. And this guy talks a lot about the people that are here in America already that are terrorist groups that are known to be here. There's
there's a Chinese
30,000.
There's a Chinese section. There's a German. There's a whole concern about a whole German contingent.
Yeah, and then there's a whole group of, say, like Islamics that are like in the 30,000
we have a serious problem with a porous border, and we have
Big time.
We have this whole potential, and I don't know how true it is. I've been told that there are German mercenaries that are ready to jump in with the blue once the blue hats try to take over. The UN moves in. If there's some reason to say that America has gone a rogue state, they could start to create all sorts of destruction. I don't know if that's true. I believe it. By the way, the Chinese, I believe it. Islamofascists, I believe it.
That I definitely
You know
believe.
what we need to do? We need to start buttoning these up. It's in our interest, and we've done it before. In fact, remember we teased this at the beginning, Venezuela. We've done this before.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and actually go back with me to 1895. 1895, there was a dispute between British Guiana and Venezuela. The problem is that the Brits were involved, and there was a potential war about to kick off in Venezuela. We stepped in and we said, no, not in my back door. Britain, fix it. Come over here and fix it. And to justify it, when asked, can you do this? Can we even speak in this way to other nations? Secretary of State Richard Olney said this. Go ahead and pull it up, Mr. Producer. It's a simple quote. Today, the United States is practically sovereign on this continent.
Whoop,
and it's
what?
fiat.
On its what?
On this continent.
Keep going.
And its fiat, what its whim is law upon the subjects to which it confines its interposition. In other words, Britain, you're in our back door. Your colony is in our back door. Fix it. And we have the power to start a war. You want to start it? Guess what? We're going to win. This is our territory. This is our house. We've had it for over 100 years. You guys lost last time twice. Can't forget about 1812. You guys lost twice. Do not let a war between your colony and a sovereign state kick up. Happened again in 1902. In 1902, we actually had Venezuela default on loans to Germany and Italy. And Germany and Italy brought over warships, and they set up a blockade, kind of like what we have going on right now. And so we started to say, hey, Venezuela. We said, Britain, you got to fix this. Venezuela, we were on your side 7 years ago. Guess what? You guys can't do this. In fact, we're going to intervene if we must. And Theodore Roosevelt was president at the time. And he said this, and this forms the core of the Roosevelt corollary. Go ahead and throw this up, Mr. Producer. And then only if it became evident that their inability or unwillingness to do justice at home and abroad had violated the United States of America, another country, or had invited foreign aggression to the detriment of the entire body of American nations, it is a mere truism to say that every nation, whether an American or anywhere else, which desires to maintain its freedom and independence must ultimately realize that the right of such independence cannot be separated from the responsibility to make good use of it.
Beautiful quote.
In other words, you forfeit your freedom if you don't do your responsibilities. And we will enforce that, Venezuela. That's what Roosevelt said. And so, again, Trump is really just carrying out what a lot of presidents have before, what America First presidents and statesmen have said over the years. Let's do one more, because this one, I think, is the most interesting bit to the Monroe Doctrine, and this is the Lodge Corollary. Before we throw up this, before we do that, Mr. Producer, Japan in 1912 wanted to purchase a harbor in the Baja, Mexico. Why would we not want Japan to purchase a harbor in the Baja, Mexico?
That's sitting right on my edge.
That's in my backside. You are sneaking up and you're setting up. And by the way, Japanese, very different today than they were geopolitically at the time in 1912. If you'll remember,
my crack side.
If you'll remember, they were waging war with the Chinese shortly after this, and it was a brutal, bloody war. And the Chinese were actually our allies against the Japanese, friend of my enemies, my friend sort of thing, in World War II, just less than 30 years later. So we said, you can't do that. Now, Senator Henry Lodge Cabot Cabot Lodge, thank you.
Yep.
Cabot Lodge said this: resolved that when any harbor or other place in the American continents is so situated that the occupation thereof for naval or military purposes might threaten the communications or the safety of the United States, the government of the United States could not see without grave concern the possession of such harbor or other place by any corporation or association which has such a relation to another government, not American, as to give that government practical power for control for national purposes. He goes on to say, this resolution rests on a generally accepted principle of the law of nations older than the Monroe Doctrine. It rests on the principle that every nation has a right to protect its own safety, and that if it feels that the possession by a foreign power for military or naval purposes of any given harbor or place is prejudicial to its safety, it is its duty as well as its right to interfere. Can I hear an amen on China owning land in the United States?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man.
The Lodge corollary is correct. We absolutely have a right to say, no, China. No. You cannot own American land. Chinese corporations, you cannot own American land. We need to reverse this. This may sound unjust, but then you realize that they are harboring Chinese nationals in some of these places that have come across the border illegally. It's not just Mexicans, okay, or Venezuelans who are coming across the border illegally. A lot of other people. Not cool. We need to start enforcing this more.
Well, you don't understand. Not only are they owning land, but they're centralized around military bases. That's where they're wanting to buy land, and what's the point of that? Mm-hmm. I mean, that should bring up red flags for everybody.
It's a hostile nation. Why are we allowing them to buy land?
Well,
that's a no.
That's just like, Abbott stopping the
Muslim
car folks here in Texas from building their little city that they were wanting to do and have Sharia law going on.
We did talk about Abbott's prohibition on the Islamic building in Dallas.
Yeah, and I just want to build on this thing of Chinese owning land because I wanted to find out how many have actually passed laws on this. Florida, Texas, Utah, Colorado.
What are you doing here?
So these are states that have passed a law to say China cannot own land in their state.
We need more of that.
We need it to
Absolutely.
be federal. We need to be on the federal.
Alabama, Arkansas, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Virginia, and Utah is listed above.
We need more of that. We need more of that. We cannot. This is common sense, and it is something that is American. It's something that we have established. Because we've done it in the past does not mean that it is necessarily good. These are good policies. These are common sense policies, and they are something that we have done for a long time to good effect, for a good reason, and it is just. So, yes, I am appealing to history also on the perspective of, yes, what Trump is doing in Venezuela. Look, I think everyone in this room has at one point or another even said, wait a minute, I think you're being too hard on President Trump. There are times where I've been hard on President Trump. This is not one of them. This is one of the best things that he could have done. I am so happy that Hegseth and whoever Trump is working with, Rubio, Hegseth, everyone underneath them, they've given him solid advice and he has carried it out. This is one of the smartest things I have seen this administration do. If he carries it out correctly, if the right people in a proper election cycle all fall out, as a result of this, this is a win. This is a huge win. And again, Democrats are on the side of face-tattooed, sex trafficking, drug-fueled monsters.
Blue-haired.
And they're on the wrong side of history one more time. The godly principles that this nation was founded upon will always be the right side of history. It'll be the correct side of history. And you look at the right and the left. Do y'all remember where the term comes from, the right or the left?
I do not.
In French Parliament, you had the left side were the secular scholars and philosophers who wanted to kick out the right, the church, and the monarchy. Now, the monarchy had some issues in France, don't get me wrong, but that's where it came from. You look at the secular left that wants to divorce itself from God, and you have the right, which needs to make sure that it is ever reforming, ever staying true to the principles of God. And that's really kind of where it came from. It's an imperfect corollary to the American left and right, I think, but it's close enough.
Yep.
It's close enough. And so that's really where the left and the right came from. The right has been on the correct side of history over and over and over again, and we are on the correct side here. And here's why. China is doing war games over Taiwanese airspace in the strait that borders, China to Taiwan. They are consistently doing ops. And if you want to talk about Skynet, you want to know my real concern with AI? It's this next clip. And I want you to go ahead and pull it up, Mr. Producer. This is from Sky News Australia. Go ahead and pull it up. This is concerning to me. And this is why I really do believe that we are, in fact, pulling off this caper with Venezuela. It's from stories like this. Go ahead.
Shared on state TV, revealing how the advanced technology could be used to attack Taiwan. From there, our Asia correspondent Stash Butler reports.
Chinese forces rehearse a beach invasion, a familiar drill key to a potential assault on the island of Taiwan. What's different in this recent state broadcast is these quadruped robots carrying ammunition and clearing simulated mines.
If they're able to clear some kind of path, the human beings, foot soldiers following behind, know that it is then safe.
China calls the vehicles robot wolves. And since their debut last year, they've taken a growing part in displays of military might.
In Taiwan, analysts have played down the robots' threat to the island. They say the machines still struggle in battle environments, and that Taipei can use signal jamming to stop them in their tracks.
But that defense may not hold for long, because drone warfare in Ukraine has accelerated a worrying new trend.
The solution that warring parties have found is, well, let's end communications between the operator and the drone, because that then prevents jamming technology from working.
The same way you can do that to a quadcopter and cause a quadcopter to fall out of the sky, you can do the same thing with one of these systems on the ground as well. And that pushes in the direction of autonomy, because then you aren't required to have that signal to the human operator.
Self-guided robots could overwhelm Taiwan's defenses and raise serious questions about the rules of war.
You can't really hold a robot accountable for an attack that could kill scores of civilians and violate the law.
But for now, analysts say autonomy on land, at least, is far from being achieved. And the robots are no silver bullet for taking Taiwan.
So there'll be sort of operational tactical benefits, but will it produce a war-winning strategic effect? No.
Still, the robots are the latest symbol of China's deepening military modernization and the challenge that it poses across the Taiwan Strait. Stash Butler, Sky News,
Thank you.
Taipei.
Now, these robots are a joke right now, but imagine a swarm of drones that are all armed with a plastic explosive charge. Imagine 10,000 of them. Just imagine that. That's where warfare is going in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know if the Chinese are there just yet. I suspect that they might be. There's a lot of stuff that the Chinese are not going to want to show off.
Right.
These dog drones are these robot wolves are kind of like the retarded version of what you would actually want in a real, forgive me, just saying actually slow, actually not capable of thinking on their feet. They are not the intelligent, aggressive version you'd want. Imagine 2 or 3 years from now, a drone swarm scenario where at the end of President Trump's term, they get Gavin Newsom in through PSYOPs, and we haven't taken out Venezuela. We have a swarm just overwhelm the system strike from Venezuela while they attack Taiwan. That's what they want. Mm-hmm. That's what they were hoping for. And what they're not getting right now is that support out of Venezuela. And so this is what we're up against. We're up against a increasingly AI-ified force, an AI-enabled robotic and drone force that is coming out. This is the real Skynet. It's not that Terminator is going to take over the world. It's that China or Russia or the Americas or whoever is going to win the AI arms race, and we're going to have the capability to do drone swarms that can evade and avoid countermeasures. That's what we need to be afraid of. And China is quickly attempting to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here looking at these dogs that are walking around. The cost to manufacture one of those things and to do what it does has got to be phenomenal for one of those things.
I don't want to speak to it, but you could probably Google Boston Dynamics dog drone and it cost, and I think it's going to be somewhere in the tens of thousands, if low hundreds.
But the more they do, the less
correct
it'll become.
Correct.
And less
Right.
expensive
A lot of that's
it
R&D.
becomes.
A lot of that's R&D.
But I can imagine it would the cost for, say,
don't even
10,000 or whatever.
Don't even worry about it, Steve. They're going to be able to. They're going to be able to streamline that.
Right, I understand.
That's what it costs now.
When you compare the cost of a drone
versus
sorry, let me back up. When you compare the cost of a B-12 stealth fighter to the cost of a drone dog or a robot wolf, they're totally night and day.
Yeah.
And what she was alluding to there, which I think is a very key thing, and that's why I'm not worried about Trump, quote unquote, invading Venezuela. Because what did he use? Aircraft. He extricated 2 people out of there. I wished he had done 3, but 2 is what we got.
You're talking about the vice president, but yeah, keep going.
No, actually, well, it might have been the vice president. There's one other key person.
Okay, so Sons of Liberty drops us in the chat $75,000 for the Boston Dynamics spot price. So
that's nothing compared to a B-12.
Cheap. Well, it's nothing compared to the training of one soldier.
That's right.
One soldier costs.
Right.
One special ops soldier costs. I think it's
and that's where I was going.
Or $200,000. Someone, give me the rough estimate in the chat. Tell us down below what it is to do training, basic training for a special operations unit, because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And
boots
then
on the
it's
ground
done,
is what you need.
But then it's done.
But then this drone you can have 10 drones take all the mines. That's the point. Is that one of these taking a hit versus a human? It's radically different.
Very different.
So I'm thinking right now of a young man that we know, that all of us know, and he was taking a walk, and he said he heard this loud noise, and above his head he said there was like 100 drones, 500 drones, I can't remember. He said it freaked him out. He had no idea what was going on, but what was actually happening is it was a light show that it was for an event, and they were doing.
It was
a light
like
show.
a Christmas light show.
Yeah, it was. But think about that for a moment.
If they can do that,
think about this being a major city, New York City, Los Angeles. 500 drones. How much damage can be done? And you, as an individual on the ground, what can you do to protect yourself? Nothing. We all would be horrified to see that come over our heads.
Correct.
So if Iran is setting up a drone system technology in Venezuela, we need to do something about that before they get it done. We need to take care of it. So I know the mainstream media is not going to tell you this. They're just going to attack Trump. But we need to know what's really going on and why this is justified.
Correct. So someone in the comments thinks that we're suggesting that the nuclear strike would be on Taiwan. No, if you've been around for the whole show, you'd hear that we're talking about a nuclear strike coming from Venezuela on the United States as a backdoor, while the Taiwanese Strait is assaulted by China. And someone says, this is Medieval Dark Knight 27, sent a video from Angel Has Fallen. Yes, I've seen that scene. I've not watched the movie. Sorry, those movies didn't, once I saw the clip from Olympus is Down with the C-130, like being able to aggress the White House airspace, is like, that is not real. I am sorry. We have way too many defenses for that. But that's a different story. They'd have to have a transponder, but that's a different issue. Anyway, point being, Yeah, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the ability for someone to swarm, and imagine the psychological ramifications for a unit of men. If you've watched anything out of the Ukraine war, some of the most horrible footage I've ever seen is watching young men riding in the back of a Humvee, some of them shooting, some of them just looking like, dang, it's over.
Yep.
Right before the FPV drone hits them in the face and it explodes. It is some of the most debilitating, sorry, awful stuff for people on the ground to hear those. So imagine that. Imagine that style of warfare going on while we have a first strike from Venezuela. That's what we offset. This was a good thing. Trump had to do this. All of this, everything we've been doing, the de-escalation with Russia, the de-escalation with Gaza, back of the mind for Pete Hegseth and Rubio and everyone in their team is, how do we get ready to deal with China in the Indo-Pacific? The admirals in the Indo-Pacific have been complaining for years that we've been spending money and spending munitions on Ukraine. And they're correct. They're correct. They've been saying, guys, if the war goes hot with China, we are in trouble.
So this just in from Sons of Liberty. Thank you very much. Cost to train and equip a Tier 1 special operator
exceeds 200.
Likely exceeds 200,000 plus equipment. 200 to 300,000.
That's my point. It is immeasurably different than a Boston Dynamics spot, and whatever the Chinese are
coming up with.
Whatever they're ripping off from Spot, they're not paying the Boston Dynamics price tag. It's all encompassing because it's a commie party. So it's significantly less to send those through as anti-mine ops. So all that to say, they're prepping. So we need to be prepared to, this is a good thing. This is in America's interest. This is not in, some people immediately go, oh, how's Israel involved? If that was your reaction, think about your life for just a minute.
Oh, my goodness.
Like the fact that everything ties. I understand there's problems. AIPAC's an issue. America has way too much influence from Israel, and Israel has abused our friendship in some ways. Got it. I'm with you. But if that was your response,
yeah,
you might have Israel derangement syndrome, and I don't pass that out lightly. There's a lot of good reasons to question Israel. That's not one of them.
Big Cayuna, thank you very much. 12 gauge, 30-06. Well placed, might we say.
Well,
that's a...
Yeah.
And I think he's talking about the robot wolves. That would be great.
Yeah, you know,
I like an M2, just for some... you should slap around or some reasonable facsimile.
It's interesting. I watch a guy on YouTube called Teleferimus or something like this. This guy tests all these different 12 gauge rounds.
Tau of der Maus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tau der Maus. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
Look at fun stuff if you want to watch some fun ballistic stuff. Tau, as in the Oriental, of der Maus, I believe it is. Tau of der Maus. Fun ballistics channel.
Yes, it really is. He tests out
all sorts of 12 gauge loads.
It's rather interesting.
Final thoughts before we move on to the next section. Got to move.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what bothers me is we're all going to work tomorrow, and you're going to hear all this negative stuff from people who are not
informed.
And, we have a highway of information, but most of it's not true.
Correct.
Poetry Man, how insane this reality is that we must constantly be wary of killer regimes. Yeah, that's a good comment. I would say this. Killing has been around a very long time. It is just that we have perfected it.
And also live streamed it.
And live streamed it. And that's an issue. I know that you made the comment there, I can't watch the death anymore. Duly noted. However, we should never forget that freedom is always paid for with only one currency.
Blood.
And one currency only. And it is blood.
Blood. And deterrence is only set by violence. So
yes.
what Trump just did put Iran, China,
on notice,
and Russia on notice. Sorry, India and South Africa. We don't really care about you guys. You're not too much of a threat. India maybe a little bit, but South Africa not so much.
But there's
BRICS.
Yeah.
BRICS. So that's the segment there. Now we're going to move on to an apologetic session with Charlie.
Yeah.
So stay around.
Yeah, it actually ties in really nicely because One of the things that is really been prevalent over the last, I'm going to say 10, 20 years, who decides what is true?
Well,
and Ryan, if you would put that cut up there, number, is that 16, I believe?
He's got it.
So, when we talk about misinformation, is the modern fight over misinformation really a political issue or a theological one? And I think that if we were being truthful with ourselves, it really comes down to a theological one. And I'm hoping that by the time we get done with this little segment, you've kind of seen the context of that. But let's talk about what we have seen in terms of ongoing national debates. You've got the content moderation. We can talk about the YouTubes, we can talk about the Googles, we can talk about all the tech platforms. Hey, Twitter, what was the reason that Elon Musk bought Twitter? And can we just say thank you? Because otherwise, other than Fox News, you would not have much of an opposition voice other than the smaller ones. And thank God for the smaller ones. But the point is that tech has very much been on the left side, and they don't really care. Disinformation versus dissent. Do we really understand the difference? And I think those of us in this room, we do. There are many that don't, because they don't really think about it. They hook on, especially younger people. And if you are a younger person that's listening today, can I just encourage you to do something as you move forward in your life? Pay attention and engage yourself in the conversation. Don't just silly willy-nilly go ahead and accept something because your friend did it. Is it good for you? Is it right? Is it the proper thing to be thinking? Is it the proper side to be on? We've got a lot of young people that are voting in our elections today, and they ought not to be allowed to vote. Yeah, I know. There was a collective gasp. And let me tell you why they should not be allowed to vote. Because they have not invested 1 ounce of energy to understand what the real issues are and where a person really stands. All they want to do is just be cool, like their friend. No desire to do the right thing when it comes to voting. They don't think about the ramifications of what's going to happen if they vote the way that they do. So I think it's important that you engage and learn the difference between disinformation and dissent. And I think if you really took a look at the life of Charlie Kirk, that's really one of the things that he wanted to do. He wanted young people especially, to understand you can have dissent. You can, but articulate it. Don't just sit there and fight over it. And unfortunately, I think that's where we're going. So, Ryan, if you would, let's head to that next cut there. I want to take a moment and really talk about the historical anchors to this issue. And Ryan, we're moving there to cut number 18. We've talked about that content moderation and everything. And the other thing too, I want to bring up real quick on the government pressure, if you will. This happens on both sides. This is not necessarily a left side, right side thing. And you ought not to think of it as such. I want you to think of it just more from a government perspective. When you do that, I think what you'll see, especially back when the founding happened of this nation, there was some definite concern about some of these things. And you'll see it, especially as it relates to the papers that we've been talking about over the last several months. The disinformation, the fake news, being purposely to mislead a majority of people and the public at large. Not what we want, not what we need. All right, let's get on to that next one. Cut number, you got it there, Ryan? My bad. I'm sorry about that.
Pull it up.
Yeah. So I want to get to some of the historical anchors here. And point number one, the First Amendment doesn't tell us what to think. It does not tell us what to think. What it does is it tells the government what it is not allowed to do. There's a big difference when we come to that kind of stuff. We have in our country the Bill of Rights, and I remember this was a few months ago, John Arthur, I think it was, and you had mentioned that we shouldn't have a Bill of Rights. That kind of grabbed me for a moment. And I thought about that, and I'm, okay, there might be a point to that.
Because that which isn't enumerated to the federal or what's not enumerated to the person goes to the state.
Yep.
Then goes to the federal.
And we're actually going to talk about that a little bit more. And I remembered this, something that I've impressed upon our young people in our Bible studies is that law always requires more law. Why? Because what we do as humans is we like to go to the edge of where we're at. So now when we get to the edge, what have we got to do? Now we've got to clarify more law. We've got so many laws on our books, we don't even know what laws we have.
Less laws, please.
Thank you.
Just have common law, and then actually adjudicate justly based on the common law of each subject.
Amen.
When we go to the edge, we like to step over that edge.
We really do. We don't need more laws. What we need is to enforce what we've got. And we've got plenty of laws. We don't need more. And we need an understanding of what we've got. And then we just need the powers that be, our district attorneys, to enforce those things. That's really what we need. I'm hoping and praying that we can see the importance of that, and that as we move forward with the analysis of disinformation and misinformation and fake news and all of that, I hope we can understand the importance of separating all that out. I never thought that the term that Trump used, fake news, would really catch on. And it is. And I don't know about you guys, but what I'm starting to see is the liberals use the term themselves.
Yeah. Oh, fake news?
Yeah. They're starting to really enjoy it.
It was a liberal term, and Trump actually re-weaponized it against him. By the way, best thing you can ever do, Yankee Doodle. Yep. It was a pejorative.
Yep.
And we wrote a song about it and then said, yeah, we're going to Yankee your doodle.
That's...
Yep.
We just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
The First Amendment, again, doesn't tell us what to think. It tells the government what it is not allowed to do. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. So that was important. Critical because it assumes that truth exists. Truth exists. Citizens are morally accountable, and open discourse is less dangerous than government control or centralized control. And there you have it. I think that's really the best way to state that. Let's move on to the next cut, if we could, Ryan. And this is cut number 20, Federalist number 84. This is Hamilton, and I believe we've covered this particular paper, number 84. Hamilton on rights being pre-political. We must get this point. Hamilton argued against a Bill of Rights. Not because rights don't exist, but because they already exist prior to government. Hamilton's fear was that by listing the rights would imply that the government grants them. That's the enumerating that John Arthur was just talking about.
We actually have politicians today that think the same thing, that government gives you your rights.
Yes.
And that started to change in the late 1800s until every Supreme Court case was saying that, up until it's like the 1880s, 1890s, we actually referenced the court case where we saw the change. I can't remember off the top of my head. But up until the late 1800s, we'd always said recognizes, not grants. The government recognizes these unalienable or unalienable rights. You can't change those rights.
Yep.
And then it says grants. But they started to say grant in the late 1800s, just where we saw that change towards the secular wing of the Enlightenment. Sorry, Charlie.
No, that's good. And so Hamilton really, his question would be, why declare something shall not be done when there is no power to do it? Mm-hmm. You don't need to. And as we go through this, I'm like, you know what? We don't need a Bill of Rights.
We need to simplify the law.
We need to simplify it a lot.
Omar Sewerpickle, I would add that if we don't want to enforce a law, then it should be repealed. If we don't, that law will be enforced inconsistently.
Amen.
And that is so true. You don't have a free nation if you have laws. You have a free nation if all the laws are applied equally and the laws are just.
Like a bunch of these 2A laws they have out, that are.
I'm sorry, Pam Bondi's not a
ridiculous.
conservative. She's doing a lot of this stuff with Maduro based on gun ownership.
Yep.
But not that he even has a right. But anyway, just keep going, please.
Cut number 22.
But she goes after conservative or after gun owners too. So
I want to get to Jefferson here because Jefferson, he attacks this from a different angle. Error of opinion may be tolerated when there is no power. I'm sorry, may be tolerated where reason is left free to combat it. He believed in reasoning. And I think that's a really good thing. He and the founders never meant for the government to control speech. He's not saying that error is harmless. He's not saying that truth doesn't matter. He's not saying all opinions are equal. He's not saying any of that. What he is saying, error is inevitable. Suppression is more dangerous than error. Did you catch that? Suppression is more dangerous than error.
So what you're saying is if you say we can't talk about Nazis,
that's a problem. We have to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be able to do that. So here, you said earlier, there's freedom of speech and freedom of the press. But the press can come out and lie and try to destroy an individual. And they've done that in the past. And therefore, you can sue.
Okay, so yes. And I think what's important here is that even in spite of all that, Jefferson and Hamilton would argue that the ability to reason these arguments and put truth out there, because remember, who's got the power of truth at the moment? Who's got the power to put information out?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Sons of Liberty actually quoted one of my favorite Thomas Jefferson quotes. Error of opinion may be tolerated where reason is left free to combat it.
Amen.
That's one of my favorite Jefferson quotes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Ryan, if you would, I want you to go to cut number 23. This is the contrast here, and I want you to really see this. And if I could, John Arthur, would you read that off for us?
Jefferson's worldview. Truth exists. Humans can reason. Error can be corrected. Power corrupts truth. The modern worldview, in opposition to it, speech causes harm. The citizens cannot discern truth. It must be done so by the priesthood, by the political elite. Error must be prevented, not debated, by the arbiters of truth, and they get to choose what is true. Our authority must intervene early.
So that's what we see going on in America today, and actually around the world. You just get to have a heavy dose of it because you live in America and you look at American news. But if you were in other countries, you would see that it's radically controlled by media outlets and everything.
Not only should authority intervene early, but arrest you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the ultimate authority, is to be able to.
And we've seen that really come home to roost in America. What did Biden do against Christians?
Oh, yeah.
He was going after them. And he employed the IRS to basically come after
prevented the assembly of churches.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is really a dangerous thing to allow this to go unchecked. Truth itself will always win. Truth will always win. It's when people want to disregard truth that it starts to become extremely dangerous. And that's the world that we're living in. When you see liberals today and progressives, Nikki's absolutely right. A lot of the things that they do, if it were somebody else, probably wouldn't complain too much. But because it's Trump and he's so evil, scare quotes, we've got to speak out against it. That's not good. Jefferson agrees with Hamilton that government should not be trusted with truth arbitration. Can anybody say amen? Because once it claims that role, error becomes permanent. Mm-hmm. That's a key thing there. Hamilton feared enumeration, a required listing of all rights. Jefferson feared enforcement. He could see where this would lead. Same concerns, just different angles. Jefferson believed that bad ideas should lose arguments, not get removed. Modern content moderation assumes bad ideas must be stopped before they're heard. Jefferson's confidence didn't emerge in a vacuum. It rested on a belief in natural law, moral accountability, and a strong belief that truth has inherent strength. And it does. It ties back to God himself. So is this a political thing or a theological thing? Truth is not fragile. Light exposes darkness. Lies collapse when confronted. By the way, we're all sitting here today. Would we like to see the Epstein files? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right? Why? We want light shown on the issue.
Well, they released them, some of them.
Some of them.
And then funny enough, they redacted a bunch of stuff, and then that redaction was deleted with a simple right click with a PDF. But anyway, we still don't have everything. We don't have enough.
Yep. Need more.
Yeah.
Don't have anything.
Sorry.
If Jefferson trusted reason to defeat error, why don't we? What changed? Truth or a confidence in it?
No, lack of desire to hear it is what it is.
And I think that's a pretty good point there. So let me just do this. Let me ask you guys, and we're almost out of time on this particular segment. When you hear disinformation, misinformation being used in the political realm, what's the first thing that you think about? What's your first reaction to it? Let me start with Nikki. Disinformation.
Well, it's a political narrative. It's to sway people to my way of thinking. Therefore, I can't give you all the information, but I can manipulate the information to sway you to my side, to support what I want.
Okay, so who was our young man up there in Wisconsin during the riots there?
You talking about Kyle Rittenhouse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so was he misinformation or dissent?
What do you mean?
And so was he really trying to espouse that which was false, or was he trying to espouse this is wrong?
He was there to defend people's property.
Yeah. And no matter what you look at for the political leanings of all the different stories that we've had over the last 10, 15 years, there are so many that have been saying, well, that's disinformation, that's misinformation. Look, if you want to look at misinformation, we can talk about maybe the Russia hoax.
Yeah.
Just saying. We could talk about all the different things that Donald Trump has been accused of and then subsequently indicted for and subsequently hauled into court for. And can we just say thank you that he had the money and the willpower to see that through? That was wonderful. Yes.
On the subject of Epstein and misinformation is, I read an article from the prosecutor that put Epstein in jail and labeled him a sex offender. And many people are criticizing that situation because they think Epstein got off easy. But the prosecutor said, here was the problem. The girls that would testify, their stories kept changing.
Yeah.
Girls that did, there was many girls that refused to testify, but the girls that did, their story kept changing. We would not have we would not have received a conviction if we put those girls on the stand.
It's kind of a complicated mess.
It's really
it was.
complicated.
So I saw something on Facebook about, why don't we just believe the girls? And I thought, which ones are telling the truth?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what's the most important thing?
Why don't we just believe Epstein?
Right?
I mean, it's like, well, wait a minute, which one's true? Obviously,
Yeah.
we don't want to believe Epstein. We believe that he's guilty because that's true. The question is in what ways is it guilty and what did he do? And then who were his co-conspirators?
Yep.
Right.
So it's all about, just to bring it back in.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
About truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
And truth is absolute. We live in this postmodernist world, and we want to claim that truth is this thing that we want to claim the moral superiority of holding the high ground of truth without actually submitting to the standard of truth himself. And that's the issue, because truth is a person. The reality in which we live, which is the least real thing in God's paradigm. Let me say that again. This world is the least real thing in God's paradigm. Heaven and the new heaven after that are both more and then more real than this reality. They were breathed out by the word of God, and the word of God carried forth and shaped existence.
Ex nihilo.
It was exhaled, and Christ, as part of the Godhead, did the divine creating in his thoughts, in his truth is manifest from God. We want to redefine our truth, and in doing so, we claim godhood. And we claim all the benefits thereof without submitting to God. And that's really the battle. It's a spiritual battle. Everything that we're talking about today, everything that we've looked at, every day you go to work and you hear this debate over truth.
Yep.
It's about people wanting to decide what good and evil is, which was the first sin.
Ryan, cut number 26 real quick to finish up here. This is just a contrast here. John Arthur, you went through this? No, you went through the previous one. Can you read that? Because I don't have
Truth
the right
precedes
glasses.
power. This is the Christian worldview. Truth precedes power. It preexists power. Authority is accountable to truth. If you have authority, it is given to you from truth itself or himself. Error is confronted by persuasion or reasoning. Justice is ultimately divine by its nature. Power-centered worldview, or rather the secular humanist worldview, if I could define it that way. Power defines truth. Authority is self-justifying. It is the ultimate cause. The consensus, like we heard at COVID, is the ultimate self-justifying uncaused cause. Error is suppressed by force. Justice is procedural and selective. Justice is done at the fiat or desire of the consensus.
And are we not seeing selective justice today?
100%. 110%.
And that, folks, is the danger of where we're at with regards to truth. Look, get involved in your primaries. Get involved in your political system. Understand the arguments. That's key. Basically, understand truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where we ultimately need to be if we want to see big changes in America. And I say amen and amen to that.
Amen.
All right. With that, we've got some shenanigans to get to.
Ooh.
Next segment, Steve Shenanigans.
I can go shoot me a buffalo.
Nope.
Stay out of my garbage can.
I'll keep it to myself.
So simple shelter type, Steve.
I won't keep this to myself.
Okay.
Hey, now, these shelters are types to use, not on how to build them. We might get into that at some point in time.
We'd have to have a lot of effort to demo that.
Man, you're not kidding. But these are just some examples of some types of simple shelters you can use when you're out and about, out in the wilderness. Okay. Captain. Now, this would be if you're out and about in the wilderness, number one thing I always bring with me is a tarp.
Oh, yeah.
Always a tarp, a minimum of an 8x10, preferably a 10x12.
You can collect water. You can use it as a ground tarp. You can use it as a secondary shelter. You can use it as a dinner fly. You can use it as anything.
There are tarps are just, I mean, you can use it as a reflective heat source for your shelter. There's so many things you can do with just the tarp itself.
We'll have to go over at some point in the future, because I know that we also teased we were going to do the self-defense thing. We'll do that next week.
Right.
But sometime in the future, we should also go on how to collect water And one of the easiest, simplest ways to do that is with a tarp.
Yes.
And so we can talk about how to filter water with root structures, et cetera, et cetera. But
yes,
a tarp is a multi-purpose piece of equipment.
Man, you are not kidding. And they're very easy to carry. You can carry them when you go backpacking, like a smaller one, and you can just fold it up, tie it up with a piece of string, and man, you got a shelter, because if you got a knife with you, you can just make you a shelter real quick with some twine and a tarp, and boom, you're.
So, Steve, how many tarps do you typically take with you when you go out?
Usually a minimum of 2 tarps. Minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Minimum.
2 to 3. It's nice to have one for your overall footprint. So you know,
correct.
You can have a space to walk around. You might set up a dining fly, right? If you have a little bit of cordage with you. And if you're really in a pickle, like I said, you can use it for water distillation.
So the cordage is a huge, valuable tool as well.
Cordage is
511 parachute cord is
big time, man, and you can carry a lot of it too.
And with it, you can make stuff like the next slide. If you only have a tarp, you can build something kind of like this.
Yes, and you can go to something like this. This is a simple Ranger tent. And you can build this with a tarp, and they actually make a tent like this that's a Ranger tent, which was actually the tent that the Forest Service actually used for their Rangers when they would go out and spend days out in the field just inspecting the forest, and go out and they would just camp.
Lightweight. So
lightweight.
What people
in a
forget.
pack.
What people forget, if you ever, the whole bug out mentality. Sorry, guys, most of us would not be able to survive bugging out in a disaster or nuclear apocalypse, whatever. We wouldn't be able to survive. The smaller your tent, the further you're going to be able to walk if you got to walk. And so if you're a Ranger tent is nice, light, very portable. You have more room for the rest of your gear.
You betcha.
Ounces make pounds.
Yeah.
When you add
That's
miles.
a good word.
And and the way that open front is you build a fire in front of it, and it reflects the heat onto the inside. And man, you talk about a nice, warm area in there.
Nice and inexpensive, yeah.
Man, nice.
Next one.
Next one's Captain. Baker's tent. This is a very simple, easy tent that you can make with one tarp, a couple of sticks, and some cordage. Very, very simple, easy tent. Probably one of the easiest setups that you can make. There's about probably 2-3 different types of Baker tents that you can set up. One that I didn't put in has one type of stick that you can stick up. The ones that I do have that I'm showing are with 2 sticks that you can just cut with a knife that you stick up.
And obviously, placement is critical.
Very critical.
You want to be on the leeward side as far as your opening's concerned.
Correct. And it's very critical on staking the holes down and putting them in the right place when you go to make your baker's tent, so that it sets out right, and you stake them in a diamond pattern so that it comes up properly, so you can stake it and cord it out. And it usually only takes 2 stakes and 2 cords, and boom, you're set up nice. Next one, sir. This one also is a baker's tent, but it's a little smaller, but it has a floor in it.
Mm-hmm.
Same size tarp, but it's just a little smaller, but they made it with a floor. And it's just a matter of how you fold the tent or the tarp.
All of these variations are best done with the tarp. And what Steve's laying out here is this is a quick shelter that you can put up.
Very quick.
If you only have a tarp, obviously if you don't have a tent, that's a good use. So it used to teach survival.
Correct.
Quick shelter building.
Shelter building, fire making, food gathering, things of that making food over campfires, cooking, stuff like that. And it's just.
But I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't even really need a quote unquote tent. A tarp would serve so much of the purpose.
You want a tent.
I would agree with that.
But if you don't have a tent in the back of your car, like I believe it was Sons of Liberty, tarps in every vehicle, even the motorcycles. That's good because it will make do as a shelter. It'll make do even packing or cargo blankets. Mr. Producer knows this. New Year's, I just pulled out a cargo blanket and I was able to chill and just watch the fireworks. They're great items to have.
Yes.
And they're very, very quick for bedding in emergencies. Sons of Liberty says Baker style is better for a windbreak or a quick lean-to with the beneather. Back to the wind with your back to the fire so that you're not smoking yourself out.
Yep,
That's
correct.
Absolutely correct. It's the purpose is it's a windbreak that you can put up quickly. Imagine this. Imagine a scenario where you're in the woods, you're out of gas, and someone falls into the lake, and it is 20 degrees outside. If you are out of gas, set up your Baker style, set up a quick fire, and get that person out of their wet clothes into some dry stuff. If you're out of gasoline, if you don't have a way to get out of there, get some hot water, boil some water, put about half cold, half hot water and a bunch of water bottles, slip them into the sleeping bag with the person while they're in the Baker style tent with the fire. That's a quick way to get someone warm back up.
Right. And that Baker style tent will reflect an unreal amount of heat coming off that tarp.
I was going to say,
it'll
Steve,
retain.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think we really talked about that when he brought up that first Baker style. I saw a video the other day, and I thought it was absolutely great. Outdoor Boys, and the guy was in Alaska on a riverbed. And this was when the water is obviously down. It looked like it might be heading into spring. But here's what he did. Baker style, but he took a bunch of rocks and stacked them up. And he goes and he creates his fire, gets a fire just warm and real nice. And he said, guys, the heat coming off those rocks is so strong, I don't even need to move any of those into my tent with me, into my place where I'm sleeping. But normally that would be something to consider. Why? Because the rocks are holding the heat.
Yes.
Right.
And
absolutely.
So it just goes, even you want to use the items that hold that heat the most.
Yep.
Water is a great one, but boy, those rocks, I can imagine sleeping with those things next to you and they're warm.
Depends on how well weathered they are.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
they're
he was
weathered.
He was in 25 degrees. It got down to 14, but there was no rain. There was no wind.
This is the way.
Yeah.
Yep. Man.
That's fun.
Cave. Now, not everywhere you go, there's a cave.
We saw you, Billy. We just couldn't say it just yet. He said he wanted to do a cave, but keep going, Steve. The problem is who else likes that cave?
Well, you got to be careful.
Go ahead, Steve.
But in some places, there are caves.
Yeah.
And where you do go and there are caves actually make really good places to stay. Now, when I say a cave, I'm talking like a shallow type cave, a nook.
Yeah.
Not some big, deep cave that goes off for long ways.
Where
and
Mama Bear is
and
hibernating and not happy about you being in her.
Like a nook in the rocks in there, and you can. Yeah. And if it's got a large opening, you can build up like a wall up with rocks and cover it and have you a small opening and build you a fire just on the inside and have you a nice fire right there near it, fix off the opening and have you a nice little area where you can have away from the weather.
Yep.
Stay warm, like a little cabin, basically.
If it's more of a nook than a cave, absolutely. Make sure that there's nothing coming home.
Exactly.
Find a spot to look for signs of animals.
Find any feces, dead stuff in there, footprints.
It's time to get nervous.
Kind of
I need
things hanging out.
The other thing you got to worry about with a nook, if it's on a rock face, what you need to be careful about is if water trickles down during the rain, you do not want to be up against that during a thunderstorm. Because what will happen is, as that water has eroded over the years, it gets in between the nooks and the crannies. And if you have a lightning strike, which commonly hit cliff faces, as that water sublimates, it goes from, I think it's 1,400 or is it 14,000? I forget what the cubic inch expansion is. It's huge. It's a set of missiles that come off of the side of the mountain, and they have killed people from lightning strikes hitting the side of the mountain and tracing its way down, flash boiling off those pockets of water. So you want to make sure that if you're scoping out a nook, just make sure if it's raining, look to see if you have water erosion paths coming down so that you're not curled up there with your nice campfire, and then all of a sudden you get a bam strike to the back of the neck with 30, 45 caliber sized rocks hitting you. So just be careful.
Ooh, that'd be a bummer.
If you're doing that for a significant amount of
You wouldn't remember.
You wouldn't see.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be a bummer, man.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So just one note about shelters near mountains. They're really good, as long as you know that you want to avoid the ones with the bear droppings in them.
Correct.
And avoid flat faces that are
large cat droppings, and look for tracks.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I've come across nooks where I've seen large cat tracks in, and
I love what Billy the Kid said here. I'll use my tarp as a hammock inside the cave. You got it, dude.
You like it.
You got it.
That.
I think, though, if you were starting a fire, you're going to probably hinder a lot of things from creeping in there because they'll be afraid of the fire.
It's possible. Yeah. They are. Animals have a tendency to be afraid of fire.
And so Sons of Liberty brings this up. Caves are also hot, cold sinks. A rock can pull the heat off you.
Yeah.
Because you have the heat migrating. The other thing you got to remember is if you're laying directly on rock, you're better off. What's better to sleep on, rock or dirt?
I would take dirt.
For a number of reasons, but if you're on the rock, that will sink heat away from you.
Suck it off of you.
Your body heat always goes towards the colder of two bodies when two bodies are adjacent. So you will always end up soaking off the heat. Now that's great if you're in the summer and you're really hot and you go into a 68-degree cave and you're trying to soak off some of the heat because you're not feeling good. That's awesome. Don't stay there overnight. Make sure that you get onto the dirt, hopefully covered with some.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Totally agree. Agree. That's good. I'm aching to go camping.
Just went
Nikki doesn't
canoeing.
want to do it.
I don't go.
Well, you and I can go canoeing. How about that?
I can go canoeing. I'm just not going to sleep on the ground.
You're not going to sleep on the ground?
I'm not sleeping on the ground.
I've done some tarp camping before.
We'll take Mr. Producer canoeing.
Just hung it out and tied it off, and
he doesn't like water.
Slept like that under a tarp for about 4 days.
I did sleep in a tent for a week on an air mattress in a very warm sleeping bag. And I got sick, actually, remember?
No.
Yeah, I got strep throat.
So make sure you take care of yourself when you are out in the woods. What do you think, Mr. Producer? You think it's time for Screw Tape Letters?
I think so.
Oh.
All right.
He almost, if he had just used a deeper voice,
39.
I think so.
I think so.
You want me to use my Batman voice?
Yeah.
Go for
it. Please give us your best Batman.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Cut number 39, Mr. Producer. On to the book corner. We have not visited this for a while. We're going to go through the Screw Tape Letters, Chapter 18. Next cut, Mr. Producer. Real quick, for those of you just joining us, what is the Screw Tape Letters? Well, it is a book by the C.S. Lewis. The Screwtape letters are a series of correspondence between two demons, Screwtape, the elder mentor, and his apprentice Wormwood. In these correspondence, Screwtape encourages Wormwood in how to tempt Wormwood's human patient, a young man in the World War II era Britain. In this thread of conversation, Lewis explores the base temptations of man and how Satan and his tempters may indeed think about our own existence and how they may work to tempt the souls of men. So let's talk about next one. This chapter is on the sexual realm. Ooh. So we won't get too spicy here, but this is how we're looking at it here. How do the demons of devils of hell, how do they think about the sex life? Well, Lewis kind of delves in here, so let's just go ahead and jump in. He starts off his letter as the elder demon, Dear Wormwood. Even under Slubglob, you must have learned at college the routine technique of sexual temptation. And since for us spirits this whole subject is one of considerable tedium, though necessary as part of our training, I will pass it over. But on the larger issues involved, I think you have a good deal to learn. The enemy's demand on humans takes the form of a dilemma, either complete abstinence or unmitigated monogamy. Ever since our father's first great victory, Satan's, we have rendered the former very difficult to them. The latter, for the last few centuries, we have been closing as a way of escape. We have done this through the poets and novelists and by persuading the humans that a curious and short-lived experience, which they call, quote, being in love, unquote, is the only respectable ground for marriage. That marriage can, and ought to, render this excitement permanent, and that a marriage which does not do so is no longer binding. This idea is our parody of an idea that came from the enemy.
Boy, that's scary. That's scary right there, ain't it?
Well written.
Well written.
Well thought. The idea, so the princess, the Disney princess love. The Disney princess love. Who here has heard the Disney princess story? The woman goes and finds the man. And then what? And then what? Happily ever after. What does that mean? Happily ever after. Like,
you know, she's rescued.
She's rescued
by the man.
So
then they live.
Rescued
good
from
start.
happily ever after.
Well, that's the problem, though, right? Is that it doesn't say that there's a commitment to the end state. I liked. There's a fella out there, Alex Hermosi. He's a very worldly guy, but he's got some really good business insights. He said this about marriage, though. He said people focus on getting the girl or getting the guy, and they want to get married. They don't realize that marriage is like work. You never make it in business. He says you hit the end state where you're in a flow state of work and you are accomplishing things, but the work never ends. It's there the next day when you have to go into the office. Marriage is just like that. The objective is not to get married, it's to stay married. The objective is not to get in business, it's to stay in business. He says the objective with marriage is you want to learn the other person. You want to learn their needs. You want to learn their wants. You want to grow in a relationship with them and you want to improve it. And sometimes it's kind of hard. But instead, what Lewis is writing here as one of the demons and devils of hell to an apprentice demon is this idea that the demons see this as the perfect trap for humanity, is painting this picture of this idealized romance as the exclusive, correct way of running a marriage. I was talking to someone one time, and this lady's a mother of 7 children, 8 children, somewhere in there, and we were chatting, and she goes, marriage should be routine. It should be dependable. It should be reliable. It's a commitment that you make, and we focus on love. We focus on building the relationship, but it can't be wild and crazy in this whirlwind, or else we would burn out. And that is something that unfortunately people don't understand in the popular zeitgeist, the popular culture. Keep on, Mr. Producer. The enemy's demand on humans takes the form of next one. I'm still on the last page. I got it. The whole philosophy of hell rests on recognition of the axiom that one thing is not another thing, and especially that one self is not another self. My good is my good, and your good is yours. What one gains, another loses. Even an inanimate object is what it is by excluding all other objects from the space it occupies. If it expands, it does so by thrusting other objects aside or by absorbing them. A self does the same. With beasts, the absorption takes the form of eating. For us, it means the sucking of will and freedom out of a weaker self into the stronger. To be means to be in competition. Now, the enemy's philosophy is nothing more or less than one continued attempt to evade this very obvious truth. He aims at a contradiction. Things are to be many, yet somehow also one. The good of oneself is to be the good of another. This impossibility he calls love. And the same monotonous panacea can be detected under all he does and even all he is or claims to be. Thus he is not content, even himself, to be a sheer arithmetical unity. He claims to be three as well as one, in order that this nonsense about love may find a foothold in his own nature. At the other end of the scale, he introduces into matter that obscene invention, the organism, in which the parts are perverted from their natural destiny of competition and made to cooperate.
I tell you, I am so impressed with his ability to write this out.
So what does it mean, though? When you focus in on it, what he's really saying is the demonic view, the idea of the zero-sum game. And secular humanism just really does this well. This idea that happiness always comes at the extraction of someone else's happiness. The idea of an eternal state where everyone is in love himself and growing in love, and this idea of a community of people in a place called heaven where we all love God, and because we love God, we love each other, and because we love each other, we can give, and it's this increase of goodness, of love that is, it's this logarithmic, infinite climax, if you will. That is something that the demons and devils of hell do not want to believe. I have to imagine. And what Lewis is trying to articulate here is, what if there's a little bit of a dysphagia or dysphonia with truth here? This sort of lack of desire to acknowledge that God's love is real, and instead only focus on the value of the self.
By the way, I think what he's really articulating nicely here is the stamp of the image of God on man. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really oozes out of this whole paragraph.
And just to continue it, he goes into further how sex is integral to God's word picture for, if you will, this typology of the heavenly realm, and why sex is so important for the demons and devils of hell to pervert. Screwtape, the elder demon, talking to Wormwood, is attempting to explain why they need to corrupt love. Go ahead, Mr. Producer, next cut. His real motive for fixing on sex, God's motive for fixing on sex, as the method of reproduction among humans, is only too apparent from the use he has made of it. Sex might have been, from our point of view, quite innocent. It might have been merely one more mode in which a stronger self preyed upon a weaker, as it is indeed among the spiders, where the bride concludes her nuptials by eating the groom. But in the humans, the enemy has gratuitously associated affection between the parties with sexual desire. He has also made the offspring dependent on the parents and given the parents an impulse to support it, thus producing the family, which is like the organism, only worse, for the members are more distinct, yet also united in a more conscious and responsible way. The whole thing, in fact, turns out to be simply one more device for dragging in love. Now comes the joke. The enemy described a married couple as one flesh. He did not lay a happily married couple or a couple who is married because they were in love, but you can make the humans ignore that. You can also make them forget that the man they call Paul did not confine it to married couples. Mere copulation for him makes one flesh. You can thus get humans to accept as rhetorical eulogies of being in love what were in fact plain descriptions of the real significance of sexual intercourse. The truth is that whenever a man lies with a woman, there, whether they like it or not, a transcendental relationship is set up between them, which must be eternally enjoyed or eternally endured. Why is that important? Why is the marriage relationship, the idea that till death do us part, why is the physical act something that is designed to bond us together? It's one of the most important and profound and mysterious things that God has laid out.
I'm trying to think about how I would articulate that.
Let me simplify it for you.
Mm-hmm.
The woman, through no virtue necessarily of her own, but because she has submitted to the man, allows the man to come in, the two being at one, becoming one flesh, creates new life by design. There are exceptions to that. There's infertility issues, but you have the gospel.
That's the general,
up.
yes.
You have the gospel wrapped up into that. That is the son and the church, the bridegroom and the bride. And when the bridegroom and the bride are both in one, they're both properly submitted to each other's needs, that forms this emblematic symbiosis that is at its core supposed to represent who God is and what he is offering us. To pervert that is to do violence to the idea of heaven, and that's what Satan wants. That's why it's so critical for them to do it. Next cut, Mr. Producer. From the true statement that this transcendental relation was intended to produce, and if obediently entered into, too often will produce affection and the family, humans can be made to infer the false belief that the blend of affection, fear, and desire, which they call being in love, is the only thing that makes marriage either happy or holy. The error is easy to produce because being in love does very often in Western Europe precede marriages which are made in obedience to the enemy's design, that is, with the intention of fidelity, fertility, and goodwill. Just as religion or religious emotion very often, but not always, attends conversion. In other words, the humans are to be encouraged to regard as the basis for marriage a highly colored and distorted version of something the enemy really promises as its result. Two advantages follow. In the first place, humans who have not the gift of continence can be deterred from seeking marriage as a solution because they do not find themselves in love. And thanks to us, the idea of marrying with any other motive seems to them low and cynical. Yes, they think that. They regard the intention of loyalty to a partnership for mutual help for the preservation of chastity and for the transmission of life as something lower than a storm of emotion. Don't neglect to make your man think that marriage service very offensive. In the second place, any sexual infatuation, whatever, so long as it intends marriage, will be regarded as love. And love will be held to excuse a man from the guilt and to protect him from the consequences if marrying a heathen, a fool, or a wanton. But more of this in my next. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape.
Mm. Wow.
Can you divorce the idea of God's calling, God's purpose and design from marriage and still live in the truth?
Nope.
Can you still be happy, truly fulfilled in the way that God intended you to be? No.
You can't.
That's why marriage is under assault. That's why it's been. Just look at women's happiness rates since the 70s. Absolutely plummeted. What happened in the 70s? Two things.
Well, the sexual revolution, I think, happened more in the 60s, didn't it?
More in the 60s. No fault divorce.
No. Yes.
Abortion on demand.
Yeah.
Those two things. Abortion on demand. No fault divorce. That's when those things happen. That's when women's mental health started to tank, and it has never changed. It's been a straight down trajectory ever since.
Yep.
Final thoughts?
Well, I was going to say that the spiders are become one flesh too, but in a different way.
Yes, and
they're still eating their mates.
No, but that's Lewis's point. So from the perspective of a demon or devil of hell, I mean, yeah, that is his point. Is that it's a consuming force.
Yes.
And look, we don't hold not rational, reasonable people do not hold an animal guilty. A lion from killing the brood of a former pride leader, and then taking all of the female lions and copulating with them.
I think a lot
humans guilty
in marriage, and one thing that I've been able to experience is when God has a role for a woman and God has a role for a man. And I understand there's a lot of women who've been married to terrible men who treated you awful. But in reality, if a man respects the role of a woman and honors that role, and a woman respects and honors the role of a man within a marriage, then you're going to have a very wonderful relationship because there's respect and honor for what she does and for what he does. I know Charlie and I were talking the other day about something, and he said something about women being lazy and, men coming home and say, oh, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And I said, oh, yeah, you've never said that to me. He never came home and said, what have you been doing all day?
Yep.
He never said that to me.
My darling works very hard.
Yeah. And so he always felt that way. And so when you're home with 5 kids and your husband comes home and you know that he understands that you've been working hard and, you've got a lot on your plate and respects what you're doing, it says a whole lot. But I will say this. Women independence is, I understand if you've been in a bad relationship, you don't want a man taking care of you anymore because the one that did was terrible to you and you don't want to be under that.
Didn't meet the standard.
Right. But I'm finding that more women, the more independent women become, the less masculine men become. I know that's a strong statement, but it's true. I cannot stand to see these feminine men out there.
Amen.
And I don't care if you like that or you don't like that. I don't support any woman being abused in any way by a man. Nobody's ever abused me. Nobody's ever going to.
The pill and SSRIs have both changed women's libido and what they're interested in. So women who've been on both are attracted to a different type of man. And when they get off of the pill, they're interested in higher testosterone men. And a lot of times getting off the pill leads to divorce. So it's a multifactorial compounding thing, but the interest in the effeminate man largely came about due to the pill.
Interesting.
Anyway, Steve, final thoughts?
Yeah. One thing I'd like to say is that Ryan, light switch says you got a great Batman voice.
Thank you.
But yeah, in regards to Maduro, I think Trump did a great thing, not just in regards to the Monroe Doctrine, but for the people of Venezuela.
Yeah.
Those people in Venezuela have been suffering for years. When you stand in line for food as long as those people did and then still get no food, it's sad.
Yeah.
And it's
an evil dictatorship.
Yes. Correct. Very, very sad situation there. The economy was in the tank, and it was
We're gonna make Venezuela great again.
Yeah,
I'm all about that.
I'm all for it, and it's going to be a great thing, and it's going to be good.
Every second of it. Every second of it. I love it. Shirley.
I really think that when you look at what Trump has done, he can be flashy, but it's not long lasting. When you think about when he killed Soleimani.
You mean what he does?
It's quick.
He doesn't drag it out.
He doesn't drag it out. It's quick. It's bang.
Contrast that to 20 years in Afghanistan.
Yes.
However many years in Iraq. 4 or 5 years, whatever it was in Libya, and a terrible regime topple. This isn't regime change.
No, and if you think about it, with regards to Maduro, this is going to be out of the news cycle in another month or two.
People are going to forget all about it.
Forget all about it.
Yeah, the Americans will.
Yep.
So, absolutely. I totally agree. And I just got to say, guys, if you go to work this week and you hear people crying about how evil Donald Trump is and how un-American this is, hopefully now you've been prepared. Monroe Doctrine, Washington, Jefferson, John Quincy Adams, Olney, Theodore Roosevelt, and Cabot Lodge, Henry Cabot Lodge. A lot of men have written in on this over the years. We absolutely had the right to do this. It wasn't a regime change. We were toppling a rogue state that was involved with nuclear powers that are currently threatening nuclear war over the silicon processing hub of the world, Taiwan. This is about Taiwan. It's about American safety. It's about protecting Americans. This is a just thing. This is a right thing. We veer a little bit further into politics than we do on apologetics, but at the end of the day, you've got to be able to defend why you believe what you believe.
Amen.
Yep. A lot of the folks on this program who are listening, you guys already know. Sometimes, hopefully, we had some fun kind of chatting it up about it. And maybe you hadn't read some of those documents and some of those statements from those men. Let us know in the comment section what you want to hear from us next. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week. With that said, we got nothing else for you. You have a good one.